Hey everyone, and welcome back to a new series I am starting, in which I will be breaking apart and dissecting all the popular anime that you guys love and basically pointing out every flaw in each of them, and also being that one annoying dude who seems like he hates a good series. But in all seriousness, keep in mind that just because I am critiquing this series does not mean I hate it, and in fact, as we are looking at Hunter x Hunter today, I especially want to say that it is one of the best anime I have ever watched. It's peak fiction, fantasy, and storytelling rolled all into one, and its world building is masterful, also containing perhaps one of the best villain groups in the history of anime. This is a huge deal considering that basically every anime does have a villain group, and the Phantom Troupe are just the cream of the crop. But more than any other anime, Hunter x Hunter involves big brain moments and logic that just enhance the fun about an arc. Although every single time that this happened, especially Greed Island, I spent a good hour trying to learn the fictional elements myself, like for example the cards associated with the arc and more. What I found in doing this was that A, this wasn't a waste of my time, and B, I learned that everything in Hunter x Hunter actually made sense. Even the ever so insignificant cards that a regular anime would have just passed off with no real calculations had accurate power scaling, and rightfully so, as real card sets have actually been made from them. So basically what I am trying to say is that Hunter x Hunter being able to produce a real life, tangible thing out of some scheme they thought up in their show proves why it's exactly one of the best anime. And you know, maybe I should make praising every anime before I critique them a habit, just to show you how I really feel about them. However, going on from what I mentioned earlier, no anime, except for maybe Attack on Titan, is completely perfect. There will always be times when something doesn't add up, make sense, or maybe the story just goes really sour at parts. And a big part of the reason why I needed to make this video around 8 minutes long was the fact that Hunter x Hunter just decided to take on a huge challenge. That is, trying to weave a really deep, interconnecting, and at times split POV anime. And as I'm saying this out loud, I can't help but think doing that is just entirely impossible. But Hunter x Hunter is closer to breaking that deadlock than any other anime I've seen so far. So in today's video, I'm here to give you a few points that it could have been better on. But before I start today's video, make sure to subscribe to my channel for more anime and manga content, and I really do hope you leave a like for this series to continue, because I really feel that understanding the pros and cons of anime can help yourself and the anime itself progress to a better stage. Without any further rambling, let me get started on everything wrong with Hunter x Hunter in 8 minutes or less, hopefully. First and obviously a very important one is the pacing as we dive into the Chimera Ant arc. Now this arc included the split POV that I mentioned earlier, and if you really go and trace everything back, everything falls in line, right from the time of certain occurrences to the relation with other characters. But overall, those parts just weren't interesting to watch, and I feel as if Hunter x Hunter dragged 3 minutes into 30 episodes, a classic anime syndrome. While everything was going at 0.01 speed, it was really easy to find yourself doing something else during these moments. And furthermore, even some insignificant things, especially a part about the octopus dude, was really exaggerated. Like, my guy Octopus is a good guy, but he doesn't need a whole arc within an arc for himself. And while we remain on the Chimera Ant arc, I think it's worthwhile to talk about Poof. Yes, Poof, one of the royal guard to the king, a creature which didn't have as much character building as anyone would have liked. If you zoom back to the fights, all Poof was pretty much doing was questioning himself, crying, and dancing like some weirdo. Sure, a couple times was fine, but it happened so much to the point that I kinda hated every scene he was in. Number 3, still in the Chimera Ant arc, the fights, and I mean almost every one of them. Sure, while looking at the fights blindly without any prior knowledge of the arc, they look kinda cool. I mean, they're guys using weird Nen type things, right? However, when sticking with the arc and having to endure 100 episodes of dudes getting chased and killed by Chimera Ants, we at least wanted some Naruto taijutsu type of stuff or some crazy Demon Slayer type animations. Maybe some light speed combat or two, but in reality every single fight in the Chimera Ant arc was a disappointment. And yes, I mean even Godspeed, and don't hate me for saying this. You see, initially before watching the anime, Godspeed was something I heard everywhere on the internet. and wanted to find out for myself. Later, I was watching this whole arc and I found out that Godspeed is just 5 seconds long and is something that happens in anime all the time. That was an underwhelming sight, but then you go to Netero versus Miriam, two established gods in the Hunter x Hunter universe, and their battle so far has been disappointing. Netero smashing his big ol' hands 100 times over. While we're still on the fights topic, I also want to point out that no one actually definitely wins or loses these fights for a major part in the anime. Sure, Netero loses and Gon wins, but those are near the end. The whole 30 fights that took place in between were just villain versus hero, and either the villain or hero running away to regroup. That was kind of annoying to me as a watcher, as I wanted at least a couple of definitive results. And recalling the Poof character incident, I also did not like Kite. His character development was too rushed, and when he got captured it didn't really make me feel as if I cared for him. I mean, we didn't share any experiences, he was just kind of a dude that was just pretty much kind and that's it. In addition, the chimera ants were far too powerful for something happening so early on in the series. But I haven't read the manga, so maybe it was set up to some bigger players in the game. I also didn't like how they tossed Nove and Morel aside like flies, as initially they appeared to be god level strong. Same goes with Netero, although they did make up an excuse, the Netero had aged past his prime, so I feel like that was a little bit acceptable. Anyways, I don't want to make this whole video about the Chimera Ant arc, so let's move on to something else, shall we? From what I've watched so far, I really thought the Hunter exams portion of the anime itself was too far stretched. I mean, they finished after a long stretch of episodes, then it turns out they didn't actually finish, then they think they finished, and so on. While the tasks were kinda interesting, that part made it meh. As for the Zoldyck family arc, despite Killua being one of the greatest and most appreciated anime characters, yeah, that definitely wasn't too good for him. Killua was far too rushed, and I found myself wondering why I even cared about him, or rather why he even cared about Gon. That part came far too early, and I didn't really see any established friendship between Gon and Killua, meaning I thought it was too artificial. Though it does get better later, the whole arc was pretty bad. I found no sympathy with Killua, though it has a great way to introduce the Zoldyck family. Moving on to Heaven's Arena, I couldn't find too much wrong as it was a training arc and it did its job just fine, while actually keeping some of the fights interesting. But it got to the point where there were just too many fights, too many floors. However, I did like the introduction of Wing and really liked him. Hisoka's Nen introduction was quite amusing to say the least, and his fight versus Gon was cool as well. Aside from Heaven's Arena, Greed Island was a great arc. As I mentioned earlier, it had a lot of high IQ moments, but these same moments are only understandable to the people with high IQ. And as for myself, I cannot say that I'm exactly one of them, so hence the reason why I had to spend an hour learning the game myself. Finally, finishing off with the Phantom Troupe arc. Sorry, but I just couldn't think of anything bad about that one. A perfectly executed, flawless arc that made me commit to watching a beautiful anime.